This is the first morning of judging. I'm very excited to see what we've got in store. I've had a little bit of a preview on our judging app, and I know there's some great work coming. And I think one thing I'm really looking forward to is the humour that comes across, because you Australians do humour way better than us. We're quite funny, us Manx, but you guys, you can really nail it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've got in store for us. So the similarities between Manchester and Perth are really obvious. It's all about a creative, can-do attitude. I think when your budgets aren't as big as the capitals, your clients probably aren't as talented. You have to go further. You have to be really stubborn and really apply your craft. Manchester is it's a creative hub outside of London. Actually, some stats have come out recently to say it's actually the fastest growing industry in all of the regions. So there's a lot of life going on here and a lot of creative excellence.
Yeah, we saw a shitload of work, loads and loads of work. It was some really nice ideas, some good thinking. I was kind of expecting to see bigger brands, but the guys were saying that a lot of the bigger accounts have gone over to the East Coast, to Sydney and what have you. But you know, doesn't really matter. A good idea is a good idea at the end of the day, isn't it? So there was plenty of good ideas. We saw a lot of good ideas. I think perhaps some of the ideas haven't been pushed maybe hard enough. You know, we've always tried to sort of push an idea till it sort of breaks, and then we stop and go back a step sort of thing, and just start again from there. I think on the smaller accounts, you know, you still need a good, solid, strong idea. But if you haven't got the budgets, what we tend to do on the smaller clients is try and keep it simple. Really strong idea, simple, and not try and do too much. You know, less executions perhaps, you know, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's a struggle to get more than 3 good executions on a campaign, you know, like really good, if you want to win an award. There was a thing, which is like a sort of classical small client, I guess. I thought there was a great idea in there, but again, I'm not sure it was executed quite right or pushed quite hard enough. There's a few things stood out for me. I thought that was such a clever idea, so well done. It's the sort of thing that, you know, you do it yourself at work and it never happens because it's, you know, it's such a big number, and it was just really good to see someone who got their shit together and actually make it happen. That was amazing. I think on a lot of the entries, there was a case of like everything had been entered, whereas, you know, maybe be a little bit more selective. There was a nice idea. There was a lot of work. There was like slides work, and there was one thing that was like hidden away in one of the slides, and it was a special build. And I think if that had been entered individually, it would have definitely won. Well, I would have voted for it because, you know, special builds they're always great fun, and it was a good one. And I think it was the only special build we actually saw. And so I think just being selective with your entries is good advice. You know, 3 or 4 things is enough. Just pick the best bits. What made me jealous? The sunshine, that made me pretty jealous. It's a beautiful part of the world. I've been a few times myself, and yeah, was very jealous of living and working in Perth for the afternoon. That's for sure. Yeah. To raise the quality of work, I think just keep at it. Like I say, push the ideas until they don't work anymore. Just have maybe a bit more fun. You know, be a bit more outrageous. There was some radio that developed, but you know, it could have gone crazy. You know, just a bit more noise and maybe just have a little bit more fun. Another bit of advice is sometimes if you've got a great TV ad, the print doesn't necessarily have to look like a still from the TV ad. You know, there was a couple of things in there, and it was just like a still from the TV sort of. You know, they're beautiful, nicely put together, look good, but again, maybe push the idea. Print is a different execution to TV, so you've got to maybe push a bit harder in that department. But all good.
To be honest, I wasn't very familiar with like levels of craft in Perth advertising, but it did really surprise me today. Like the levels of craft, lots of like beautiful art direction, some lovely entries in the typography awards. and the animation, there was quite a few nice animation examples in there as well. So yeah, very high calibre. Well, as I'm a copywriter, I was particularly inspired by the radio ads, because obviously there's nothing to rely on visually, and there were just some really great examples of using sound to really tell a story and communicate without visual aids. So that was particularly inspiring for me.
My overall impressions of this year's work was pretty good. I think there were certain categories stood out, so use of sound, things like that. I think use of illustration was pretty good too. I think there was a couple of pieces of work that really stood out above all others, which was good to see, and we're really at international kind of standard, so yeah, it was pretty good. If anything disappointed me, it was probably the ideas in a lot of cases. I think we were looking at judging, as you do in craft categories quite often, you're looking at it for photography, for direction, that kind of thing, illustration, but you just can't help but look at the ideas. And I would say quite often, a lot of the ideas are good too. I thought sometimes perhaps the ideas could have been better in the craft categories. I'd probably say any advice I'd give would be probably relative, because I think Manchester and Perth are quite similar in that sense. I think when you look through the work, you could tell they have the same challenges that we do, which is budgets generally, because we work in comparison to London. London in the UK tend to get a lot of the bigger brands, bigger budgets, better clients, that kind of thing. So my advice would probably be play to your strengths a little bit more, and I think there was evidence of that in all of the work, in a lot of the work anyway. I think people, there wasn't a lot of visual effects, because you could tell people weren't going there because of budget and that kind of thing. There was a lot of kind of real film, as opposed to trying anything too kind of overblown.
I think it's been a pleasant surprise, actually. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. You don't really hear much from kind of Western Australia. You're very aware of Melbourne and Sydney and the creative work that's coming out of the agencies, particularly the smaller ones and kind of the more global agencies. So it was quite interesting to see the quality of work that was coming out. I was pleasantly surprised. The design standard was actually much higher than I'd anticipated. There was a few key pieces that kind of shone through. There was quite a lot of illustration, some really nice photography pieces, but particularly the kind of more branding and identity projects were probably the strongest categories. It's a really beautiful piece of brand identity that was created. I think when we assessed that piece of work, it was originally submitted into the branding section, and we did have a debate within the judges about bringing that into a different category. We wanted to move that into logo, because there was a really simple, beautifully executed, iconic piece that everybody just saw the merit in actually that being a standalone piece, and so we moved that into a different category. I don't think there was anything that particularly disappointed. I think some of the case studies probably could have been a little bit explained with a little bit more detail. It probably felt that a couple of the submissions had probably been rushed or had been put into multiple entries, so they hadn't been tailored to that particular category as much as you've expected. I think that it would have been great to have seen a few more entries in terms of digital. There was a lot fewer entries than I expected in terms of UX and UI design, so it actually didn't really give us a great benchmark to be able to kind of weigh up what was good and what was bad and what was kind of happening across kind of Western Australia in the terms of digital. So yeah, I think there's real opportunity there for people to kind of start entering into that kind of categories. My biggest tip for people entering into the awards is to start looking and making sure that they sense check the case study that they're entering against somebody who doesn't know the project at all, because in some of the case studies there's a few gaps where you think I just needed to know a little bit more background information. So I think if you can take the opportunity and find somebody within the agency who doesn't know the project as well and assess it, I guess through what would be a judge's perspective, just to make sure that your story is really clear and that you're hitting kind of all key points for that category, then that would probably be my biggest tip really for the entries.
Just finished the judging. I'm absolutely knackered. There's been so much work to go through and so much good work. So there's been lots of healthy debates. We've had 4 different juries, and then obviously had the metal jury, which we've just finished from now. The rest of the guys are in the bar over there having a well-deserved beer. I've got one too, but I'd like to say thank you to every one of you who entered this year because the work's absolutely amazing. Well done, guys.
I think if I had any expectations going in today, it would have been that I thought the work might have been a bit weirder. Working in Manchester, which is on the periphery of London, and Perth, obviously having Sydney to compete with, I thought the work might have been a little bit more on the periphery, as it were. And I think there was a good mix, though. It was a healthy mix of work that was, pushing those kind of boundaries and also some real kind of challenging commercial creativity. So it was healthy to see, but I was surprised by that. I think all the work that you see when you're judging awards is really inspiring, whether you appreciate it or like it or not. I think it's these things are just so really amazing, and they're just great things to do. But I think it's always, for me personally, great when you see commercial creativity applied to something that can do something really social, and do social good or make social change happen. And there was a few little briefs today and a few little projects that really did that, and those things are just incredible, because I think that's what every designer wants to achieve. They want to do great work that's really creative, of course, and they want to be original, but they also want that work to have an impact. And whether that's politically or commercially or socially, then that's what you always aim for, that kind of holy grail, I guess. And it was great that we saw some of that today. If I had any kind of wisdom at all to share, it would be just try and create work that matters to you. I think a lot of designers are told that they, can't have their point of view across in the work, and that it's important that the only thing that matters is the client, or the only thing that matters is what their boss thinks. And actually, it's really important that a designer gets their message across in their work and takes on work that they want to do and that they feel that they can not only advance their careers with, but impart a bit of their kind of creativity on the world. So take work on that matters to you, do work that has meaning to you, and try and do something with that, because that can be really, really important for you as a designer, growing and sort of nurturing your own kind of talent and abilities. But also, that's what people want to see, and people respond to that when they see passion in work. So try and do that, or more of that.
So we've just finished the judging, and boy did we have a lot of work to go through. Lots and lots of great stuff in lots of different mediums, from design to motion to film, a little bit of packaging too. We were very impressed as a jury. And that's the thing with judging. Sometimes you look at work and you think it's okay. Other times you look at work and you go, you bastard. I really wish I'd done that. And that happened 3 or 4 times, not just to me, but to other judges as well during the sessions. So there's some great work out there. I'm not going to tell you what won, but I know though. So look at my face, you're not going to be able to tell. But there's some awesome work going to be up on stage.